Hello, I am Dr. Jenny Mai Phan, a researcher, data scientist, and a passionate advocate for autism and sexual health education. Welcome to my story on Aspika Talks. Today, I'll share with you a journey that intertwines my personal experiences with my professional mission to advocate for comprehensive sexual health education, especially for those on the autism spectrum, and about intersectionality as an Asian American woman, a child of immigrant parents, a child of poverty, and an autistic person. These facets of my identity profoundly influenced my path both professionally and personally. Inspired by Kimberly Crenshaw's work on intersectionality, I recognize how crucial it is to consider the multifaceted aspects of identity in both personal experiences and educational approaches. My late education on civil rights and Asian American history as an adult, subjects that were either not taught at all in school or through a filtered lens, reinforced my commitment to advocacy. Growing up in the 1980s and early 2000s in the US, our educational system often omitted these critical perspectives, a gap I seek to fill through my work and advocacy. It was also when I became an adult, I learned about my parents who came to the US. My parents took the long, treacherous journey in small boats, escaping oppression in Vietnam to come to the US in the 1970s. They didn't talk about their journey because it was traumatic, not realizing that talking about their journey meant sharing a part of their American history. Growing up in a Vietnamese immigrant family living in the US, our financial struggles as a family who lived in poverty were just one aspect of our lives. My first language was Vietnamese until I started going to school and was immersed in English learning. My parents, with limited English, navigated a new world while trying to preserve our Vietnamese heritage. I remember how their challenges with language and cultural assimilation impacted my early development. I recall the time in kindergarten, the teacher asked my mom whether I spoke any English, was extra shy, or nonverbal. My mom, who had no education on developmental disabilities and unsure of the right answer, replied that I was just very shy, not realizing that I had a speech delay and communication disability. There was also stigma around developmental disabilities in the 1980s, and this stigma was exacerbated for immigrant families who were trying to assimilate to their new home in the US. It was an interplay of cultural stigma around developmental disabilities and the immigrant struggle to assimilate without losing our identity, known colloquially as acculturation. My parents were desperate to maintain our Vietnamese heritage so that our heritage would not be lost with us growing up in the US. For a little girl with undiscovered autism, navigating both assimilation and acculturation meant multiple layers of camouflaging and masking to appear normal. The goal was not to stand out, but to blend in with society. For my family, assimilation wasn't just learning a new language or customs, it was about survival. In a society where racism and disability discrimination intersected, my parents' desire for me to blend in and not draw attention was paramount. A part of not standing out is to remain quiet, suppressing any self-advocacy. I was conditioned to stay quiet throughout my early childhood. But this came with a cost. It meant suppressing my voice and identity. This experience is not unique to me, but echoes the lives of many immigrant families balancing between preserving their heritage and assimilating into a new society. This conditioning to stay quiet had lasting effects. It delayed the recognition of my autism and hindered my ability to self-advocate. It's a narrative too common among children, especially in marginalized communities. We must empower our youth with self-advocacy tools and education about justice and injustice. It's not just about teaching them to fit in, it's about equipping them to stand up for themselves and understand their rights. Asian girls and women often grapple with stereotypes of being passive and demure, which can lead to fetishization and sexual victimization. This issue is exacerbated for autistic people who might lack self-advocacy skills due to their condition and societal expectations. Early sexual health education is vital in addressing this. It empowers young people to understand consent and their rights, providing a safeguard against exploitation and abuse. This leads to my current research project focused on sexual health education for autistic teens. This education is more than just about sex and reproduction. It's about understanding consent, privacy, protection, hygiene, relationships, family planning, and safety, including internet safety and searches about sex. There are so many great, reputable resources and curriculum that are age and developmentally appropriate for children to learn this information. For example, young children might learn about consent and private versus public behaviors, while older children approaching puberty would delve into topics like contraception, sex, and romantic relationships. I want to share with you an exciting research project that I'm leading. Our study addresses a significant gap in the current education system. We recognize that sexual health education is crucial for all adolescents, including those on the autism spectrum. Unfortunately, existing programs often overlook autistic people. Our project utilizes online toolkits aimed at providing accessible and inclusive sexual health education. This study involves teens and parents or caregivers focusing on autistic teens aged 14 to 19 years. We aim to assess how these toolkits enhance knowledge and understanding of puberty and sexual health. More importantly, we're examining the role of parents and caregivers in this educational process. Only a small percentage of U.S. schools offer curricula that are aligned with the CDC's recommendations for puberty and sexual health education. This gap is even more pronounced for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including those on the autism spectrum. Our study seeks to fill this gap by providing a resource that is not only informative, but also respects various cognitive and communication abilities of autistic teens. Our study is still ongoing. We anticipate that our findings will provide valuable insights for agencies, programs, and service providers. This will help in implementing effective strategies and interventions for autistic teens and their families, particularly in the areas of sexual health education. This work reflects a broader theme in my life and career: the necessity of accessible, inclusive, and culturally sensitive education and support systems, not just in the academic setting, but in every aspect of living. Reflecting on this, I see parallels in my own journey. Just as we seek to empower autistic teens through education, my own path was shaped by the quest for knowledge and self-advocacy. Today, my children are exploring their heritage, seeking acculturation, not forced assimilation. This mirrors my experience as I navigated through systems that were not designed for someone like me. My children's desire to learn about their Vietnamese heritage and language is a choice I deeply respect and support. This approach stands in contrast to my own upbringing, while assimilation was a survival necessity. As a parent now, I am equipped with the tools and resources to provide a safe environment for them to express their needs and wants. To give more context, my path began with Medicaid, which is a U.S. governmental assistance for people with low income and/or disabilities, and on WIC, or WIC. This is another U.S. governmental supplement for low-income women, infants, and children up to age 5. These reflect the struggles of my early life. My pursuit of higher education was driven by the determination to improve my family's situation. Supported by scholarships and driven by a few who believed in me, I worked tirelessly to balance family and graduate school. Today, I stand before you as a proud PhD graduate driven by the desire to make a positive impact in society. My journey from an Asian American child of Vietnamese immigrant parents with unrecognized autism to a researcher and advocate is a testament to the importance of understanding and addressing the complex layers of identity and more knowledge through education. My work today aims not only to contribute to scientific understanding, but also to empower and protect those who, like me, have navigated these multifaceted challenges. You can follow along with my research endeavors and advocacy initiatives on my website at www.jennymaiphan.com.